Hey everybody, TYT Sports, Ben Mankiewicz, Steve O, NBA basketball. You watch the playoffs, they begin this weekend, and you just think, at least I did, hey, NBA, where the fuck have you been the last 82 games?
Agreed. Other than a couple of storylines throughout the season, one of which was Indiana's implosion the last couple of months.
And the soap opera of the Knicks and the Lakers.
Yes. Other than that, it's been a very dull and long season.
Yeah, and it's just that baseball, the playoffs, there's an instant playoff intensity. There's no question. Football, the games are so intense and there's so few of them that I don't know that there's a significant increase from the regular season to the playoffs in football. But it is so dramatic in basketball. Everything is different. And I'm a little surprised by it, and I was trying to figure out what is different about playoff basketball, because it's not as if these guys take the season off. And I think, and tell me whether you think I'm just way out of line here, when they came up with this nonsensical 82-game season, which we all now acknowledge is too long, this was a game played by a couple of 7-footers who legendarily banged into each other, like Chamberlain and Russell, Artis Gilmore, that ilk. And then it was a lot of finesse players who shot running one-handers and skilled dribblers and defense that was position defense. And in the last, 30 years, but progressing, and certainly since the bad boys in the last 20 years, it has become a tremendously physical game. And these guys can't play 82 games like that. You can't. The human body cannot play 82 games of this much banging. These guys should play twice a week at most. And so human nature causes them to go a little easy during the regular season.
I think that's very largely true. On top of that, I think it's hard to really care for 82 games in a row. I really think it is.
When it becomes very clear that you're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
The Knicks-Hawks battle for the 8th seed was not terribly captivating.
No. So, especially if you're a team that's going, you know for sure going to make the playoffs,
yeah,
right?
For those the top 7 teams in the West, 6 teams in the West anyway, through Golden State up through San Antonio.
And especially if you're a Miami, you know you're going to make the playoffs.
Right.
And you don't really need a higher seeding, because you win one game on the road, now you have home court advantage. So you expend, it doesn't make any logical, rational sense to expend all the energy for 82 games.
And risk, and there's a significant risk to it. So I think that's it. By
the way, I'm sure you've been to NBA games where you're seated pretty close to the floor.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And you can hear them talking.
With
the body language, and they literally don't care. They're laughing, and it's a February game. They don't care.
That is telling. But what is also telling, and I remember I went to a Hawks-Spurs game back when the Hawks were at their lowest point, like 2005-06. Maybe I'm off on the years, but they weren't good. And that stadium in Atlanta, that beautiful Phillips Arena, was... it's like going to a high school game. 15 minutes before the game, there felt like there were 600 people there. I'm sure there were 3,000, but it felt like hundreds. And it just doesn't feel like an NBA game, to your point. And then there were some taking plays off. That said, sitting on the floor, Tim Duncan got pounded every possession. Every time down, bang, bang, bang. It's not quite playing the offensive line in the NFL, but it's the closest thing in sports that we have to it, the most consistent contact. Hockey has some tremendous hits, but there is not consistent pounding, possession after possession for guys certainly on the interior. So, I don't know, I think that's part of it. Baseball, part of the story of baseball is that not many teams make the playoffs, and there's this incredibly long season, but it is not nearly, it's physical because it's a sport, but it's nothing compared to the NBA.
No,
Let me give you a quote as we wrap up this segment on just sort of what it is about playoff basketball. John Wall playing in his first playoff game. Great player, point guard for the Wizards. And by the way, come on. Hello.
The Bullets.
Wall on playing in the postseason, he says, it's very intense. I've watched it going to a couple of games, but it's a lot different when you're on the court. There was one segment when I really couldn't breathe when I was going up and down the floor. So it's an acknowledgement from an all-star that he was tense. He was nervous. The emotion gets to you. So there is something markedly different about the NBA playoffs.